This is a podcast from the BBC.
Hello, you're listening to the Life Hacks podcast with me, Katie Thistleton.
And me, Dr Radha.
And today we're going to be talking about fetishes.
A couple turned up with a suitcase and came out of one of the bedrooms with clothes pegs all over them.
Wow.
So,
And they weren't doing the washing.
the biggest sexual organ in a woman is the brain. So if the brain
certainly
isn't turned on and feeling good, then the legs aren't going to open. Can't be arsed to stand there and sort of trying to justify it and defend myself. It's like I've known what's going on in my head.
Now, don't forget, do subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And also, you can email us anytime you like, lifehacks@bbc.co.uk. This is the sister podcast to our live show on Radio 1. This is where we get to talk about things that we wouldn't normally discuss on a Sunday afternoon. For example, fetishes. And we have a very interesting guest with us today. I am so excited to welcome the wonderful Emma Sayle.
Yay!
Yay!
And now, Emma, you are the founder of Killing Kittens. Now, sometimes when you say Killing Kittens to people, they sort of have a little mini heart attack because they think it actually involves killing cats, which it doesn't, disclaimer. Tell us a little bit about what Killing Kittens is and where that name comes from.
In a nutshell, the company's 13 years old, and it started as events, very female-friendly events, where sort of an offline platform for women to express their sexuality and explore, be in control. And it was all about basically the woman, if she wanted to get naked and have sex, then she could. If she wanted to play with other people, then she could. So the parties are like that, and it's grown into a big sort of global online world, which we call Kittens World, where it's still the women are very much in control. And the name, that's the interesting part. But it's slang, there's a cyber slang expression, Killing Kittens, where every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten. So if you've just killed a kitten, you've just had a wank, basically.
That's hilarious. I love those, like, you know, you'll go blind and things like that you get told when you're young.
Doesn't stop you, though.
I didn't know it doesn't know. I didn't know about the Killing Kittens one, but that's absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about how these events work. So it's a massive, massive brand now. I know that you have these parties all around the world and it's very glamorous. What actually happens if we were to come along to one of these parties? What would we see and how would the evening commence?
So we have the full-on Killing Kittens event where it's quite eyes wide shut. They're all masked. We don't let single men in. It's sort of every guy has to be accompanied by a girl, or as many single girls as they want can come along. But
Bring their harem with them.
Yeah, just no single guys. They range from villas to penthouses to mansions to bars in central London, just to add to the coolness there in that list. And just all over the world, really. We've in Australia, and we just had one last night in Los Angeles and New York and Paris as well last night. So you have the full-on ones where you'll turn up and it's cocktail dress and there'll be a champagne and oyster reception. And it's just like a private house party. But the tension in the air is just a bit more interesting than a private house party. And then sort of after a couple of hours, you can be in the bar and you'll look around and go, well, where did half the people go? And if you wander around to the sort of the bedrooms or what we call the playrooms, which are all candlelit, then you might see Dante's Inferno, sort of writhing limbs everywhere, not really knowing who's attached to who. So those ones have the full-on shagging goes on. And then we have Curious Kittens events, which is sort of more the educational side. So we have talks and workshops, sanctuary retreats, so couples retreat weekends. And actually half our events are sort of keep your knickers on events now. And then the other half are the full-on Killing Kittens events. And then on top of that, we've just got this big online world of 100,000 members who kind of use the site like a dating site, a networking site, community site, who you can search and browse and find members in your area, or you can go on the forums or read the blog. It's just sort of a big crazy world of kittens.
It's incredible, a real testament to you as a businesswoman, how that's grown. So at these parties, do people have sex sort of out on display in front of other people, or do they have to go off to a cordoned off area?
It's a complete mix. So it's not a case of, most of the time, if I go along with friends because we're in town, and we just know we're going to be able to sit down in a bar and have a drink.
Get a seat.
And often, yeah, exactly.
Actually,
yeah, we've got a sure table.
I was going to say, scarcity.
So often with that, we'll just stay in the bar area and we won't see anything. So we won't see any naked people, we won't see anything happening. We'll leave at, 2 a.m. and go, well, we didn't see anything. But if you wander off upstairs, or depending on what the venue is, or you wander to the other side of the venue with little playrooms and they've got beds in, and that's where sort of the action happens. But it's not a case of one couple in each room. It's more 10 to 30 people will be in each room.
Wow.
Just making friends.
Wow, making friends is
Holding
probably
hands.
the biggest understatement of the century there.
And what kind of feedback have you had from women about it and about how they find it?
So we actually launched a blog last summer called It's a Kittens World. And actually it was a real eye-opener because we got loads of reviews off people, girls that have attended. So I've had sort of brief conversations with some girls and the odd email just saying thank you for, giving them their confidence and opening your eyes and letting them feel empowered. But the reviews we've got on the blog from girls who've just written sort of long essays, I mean, are amazing. And also there's a lot of women who have been sexually abused and raped and all come from very religious, oppressive backgrounds who have basically said that it's just changed their lives, and they feel completely empowered and in control, and that's what it's given them. And you think, a lot of with the sexual abuse, you think, well, instantly a lot of people would go, well, it's the worst place that someone could go to if that's what's happened to them. But actually, it's not really, because we're all about taking that control back and feeling empowered and owning your sexuality. So actually, if you look at it like that, it's probably the perfect place.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
From your perspective, do you think that is something that probably could be beneficial for somebody who's maybe struggling sexually in some way, female-wise?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, aren't they? But I think if you're the kind of person who knows what they're going to do at that event, they know everything about the event, they're kind of prepared for it, they're informed about it, and they do feel that actually they need a bit of confidence boost, or they want to explore something, or then absolutely. But it's different for different people, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
completely.
some people would be the opposite and would say, well, actually that would make me feel uncomfortable, or I'd be quite scared, or I'd feel quite exposed. So it's about really understanding that individual person and finding out more about the event, really, isn't it? And,
exactly.
and the sort
or
of
come along to one of the
environments,
talks or workshops.
Yeah,
That's the thing. It's not. I always say to people, come with an open mind and don't come thinking that you've got to get naked and stuck it in, because probably 50% of all the parties, the full-on ones, people keep their clothes on. So it's not a case of the minute you walk in the door, you're expected to get naked.
I think it's interesting that actually when you hit puberty, there's an assumption that actually you should know your sexuality, you should know who you are, you should know what you like, and often we don't really talk about that sort of stuff, or about discovering things or taking control of it
at all.
No, and we just kind of, it just gets assumed that you kind of fit into wherever, and you go ahead and you should know it all, and why should you know it all?
And you should enjoy it. It's sort of like, this is what you do, and you should enjoy it, and you should know what you're doing.
Yeah, so actually this whole thing about discovering what that is for you, what that means for you, taking control of that, I think is really interesting. I think it's really interesting to talk about at any age, really, for any woman or man, because we're all changing and we don't really know,
and we constantly change as well. I think I'm very different now, just turning 40, to how I was in 30s, to how I was in 20s, and a lot of it is to do with self-esteem and confidence, and you just change. That changes you, and post babies, and you just,
of course,
you're changing daily, as my husband would say. The beast changes daily.
So why did you make the decision to allow single women to attend the parties but not single men? So have I got this right? So single women can attend and men can attend in a couple, so with a woman, if they bring a woman with them?
Because when I launched it, it was very much it felt a very sort of kind of warped society was going on. I mean, I'd grown up going to an all-girls boarding school for 10 years, being taught that I could do whatever I wanted, be whatever I wanted, completely empowered, the whole kind of that power of the collaborative kind of getting together. And then but I grew up living in the Middle East, so I'd go home on holidays and see a completely different thing going on. I started working in financial PR and had a few pretty nasty sort of harassment things going on with bosses, and decided to walk, having been told I'd be a troublemaker. So
Wow.
it was sort of, and then at the same time, Sex and the City had come out and Summers had hit the high street. It was all this kind of female sexual revolution, they named it, going on. But it wasn't actually, the reality was it wasn't happening. It was very much, porn was very male focused. I was doing the PR for the big erotica show. It was very bright light and everything was run by men, for men. And I just felt that there needed to be a platform for women to feel in control and explore their sexuality and not be judged and just go out and do whatever they wanted to do and take ownership of themselves. It was kind of the Me Too, but 13 years ago. And it was, you know, it was pre-social media. It was pre the digital sort of marketing world, really. There wasn't any of those platforms there. It was a very sort of offline word of mouth setup to start with. And the minute you throw single men into that mix, it just defeats the object.
Yeah.
And it's a testosterone factor. So you just suddenly get men out and it comes out naturally. There's, you know, them competing, women are then on edge.
Yeah.
And it's not a safe environment. So it was sort of from day one that sort of I stood my ground and went, yeah, it might not be making me millions, but I'm on a mission.
Yeah,
With an ethos.
I think it's a really good idea.
Succeeded in your mission,
Yeah, and like you say, you've had feedback from women who feel safe and feel comfortable in that environment, and that's the most important thing. Now we want to talk a bit about fetishes today. Do people ever come to you and say, I'm into this sort of thing? Do you provide this sort of service? You know, not you personally, but, you know, if I come along to the parties, you know, is there a certain party that fulfills my need?
We do. I mean, we do get some requests, but and we've also, you know, we launched a thing called Torture Kittens, which doesn't sound as bad as the name again. Disclaimer.
Yeah, I know.
There's Killing Kittens and then there's just torturing.
It's on another level.
You know, you've had a really extreme wank if God has to torture the kitten before he kills it.
That's just prolonging it. And you just don't come at the end of it. Which was more the kind of the kink side. So it sort of was when 50 Shades came out and people were, you know, very vanilla, trying out the whole S&M and wanting to know more about the submission and dominating side of it. So we decided to do some events again aimed at women where some of the rooms were themed and they were more dungeon playrooms with dungeon masters and dominatrixes who sort of explained all that. So we do have some events where instead of it all just being bedrooms, we'll have kind of dungeon. I say that, a dungeon. It's not a dungeon. The core dungeon and the equipment is very kink and S&M type. So we have that. And we have kind of kink workshops as well, sort of the shibari workshops. So learning how to use rope and all the different tools within the kink. But to be honest, we're a very vanilla setup. So it's not massively, I mean, every party, there's always something that goes on. I mean, I remember one party, a couple turned up with a suitcase and came out of one of the bedrooms with clothes pegs all over them.
Wow.
So,
and they weren't doing the washing.
No,
the steaming.
They were just into what they call pegging. So
Wow.
we do get some requests but it's sort of, we have to go, well, what do the main bulk of people want? And we're not going to suddenly provide a room that's just a pegging room.
No, but if people want to bring their pegs along, they can they?
That's fine. Exactly.
Bring your washing.
Exactly. Or
bring
handcuffs or, you know, anything like that. We're just not going to, put it on for them.
So you must have seen some things over the years. What things sort of stick in your mind as something that you were like, oh, wow, that's going on?
I mean, the pegs were up there.
Yeah, I can imagine they were, yeah. Probably peaked with the pegs.
Yeah, that was up there. There was one, do you know what, there's always funny stories at all the parties. There was one party where every so often there's a troublemaker who knows we're having a party and they might phone the police, and if you say there's underage sex or drugs or something going on, then the police have to come down and check it out. So we know Westminster Police pretty well, and two police guys turned up saying there was a call. So obviously we had to come, and we joke who drew the short straws in the police station, who's going to have to come and walk around an orgy, basically. And they were coming down the stairs as two of our regular girls who were wearing nothing but thongs and heels were walking up the stairs, who thought they were in fancy dress.
Oh, the police officers.
Pretty much had them there, hands on the walls going, oh, officers. So we had to,
Oh my god!
They look terrified.
I bet they were terrified.
They're not in fancy dress. They're real.
Oh my goodness, that is absolutely hilarious.
So there's just to be honest, there's been a few sort of dog collar leading around, with a guy on all fours with dog collars and leads going on. But
yeah,
it's not. There's just some really amazing ones where you see, if you just go, it's the most beautiful porn. If we don't allow cameras, obviously, or phones or anything like that. But there's sometimes you get a visual of like 5 absolutely stunning girls all at it in the candlelight, and you go, yeah, that's in my spank bank. I don't really have. I'm not really a porn watcher because I've got
in your Killing Kitten bank.
My index of porn within my memory.
Your brain
exactly.
is like it's
the
basically
filing,
a porn website.
Exactly.
It's all in there, all the memories.
1. We are BT Rose and Camille, aka Birthday Girls, aka the best people to throw a house party on a podcast.
Birthday Girls House Party. Woo!
It's not just a random house party. We've got themes.
Yeah. We've thought about it. We've done some minimal preparation for this.
Yeah. Are we inviting people?
We're having guests.
Not just anyone. It's James Acaster.
It's comedy. It's James Acaster.
He's outside. I'm going to go get him now.
Hello Camille, how are you?
Do you want some water?
What?
No.
All you need to do is search Kench wherever you get your podcasts.
That's Kench.
You had me at Kench.
1.
We were having a chat earlier on, and you mentioned it just before then about sort of how male-focused porn can be, and yeah, I suppose is that the visions that you see, you must be seeing what women would actually quite like to watch, but isn't often out there and available for them to.
Yeah, because also it's the subtlety of it. It's not porn to a lot of guys and the old school gonzo porn, and most of the porn out there is sort of brightly lit light. It's kind of guys pretty much abusing girls who you can tell they're not enjoying it. It's just they're just sort of pounding them over a sofa. It's not, and they get all the fantasy. The girls turn up as a secretary, or French maid outfit, and it's just not. To most girls, it's not sexy. And actually, that's what we were saying earlier as well. The most Google porn for straight women is actually girl on girl porn.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, and what we do at the events and the business as a whole, it's not the sex part. It's everything else that surrounds it. It's the touch, the feel, the smell, the ambience. The biggest sexual organ in a woman is the brain. So if the brain isn't turned on and feeling good, then the legs aren't going to open.
No.
So it's kind of that's very much how we work, is sort of get the brain sorted.
Yeah.
In our female members and all the events we do, and if whatever happens then happens, rather than going, well, it's a sex setup. So yeah,
I feel like we need to get that on a t-shirt. If the brain isn't turned on, the legs aren't going to open.
The legs won't open.
That's how it works. That's actually the biology of a woman, actually, boys. So
That's simple. They like simple language. That's simple.
And of course, I've got a friend whose partner is quite into seeing her have sex with other men. But he doesn't want to actually have sex with the people himself. He just quite enjoys sitting in the corner and watching while she has sex with somebody else. And I know that happens vice versa as well. Women that are quite interested in seeing their partners have sex with somebody else. So I suppose that's probably quite a big fetish that is explored at your parties, because you're getting couples and single women together. So I guess a lot of those couples want to go and explore and have sex with other people. Do they all have threesomes or what have you?
We get a lot of couples. Actually, a lot of the couples that come along, the girls in the couple are more bisexual, bi-curious. So a lot of the time, it's the girls. They come along as a couple, and married couples, to find the girl.
Yeah.
And then the girls will end up together, and the guy just sort of has a drink at the bar casually.
I was like, yeah, okay, I'll just sit here and have
so
a
you
laugh.
often see like some guys, just 3 or 4 guys just chatting at the bar, and you just know that, yeah.
It's like the man crash. Like when you go shopping, I always refer to it as the man crash, when girls are like trying clothes on in a girls' clothes store and they're all just sat outside looking a bit moody.
Looking at their phones.
It's like that. But instead they're all having sex.
So it's a complete mix. Or we get some couples that are real exhibitionists who like performing in front of loads of people. So there's that,
of course.
There's that
That's
element
a fetish as well,
and the
yeah.
voyeurism side of it. So you get couples who don't want to get involved or don't want to do anything, or they might just stick together. and find a dark corner, just do the two of them, but they like the atmosphere. And if they're doing it together and exploring it together, then it's their thing.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of the time they'll leave the event and just say they then had the best sex they've ever had because they did this, secret thing together.
Well, I suppose it's probably just quite exciting going along to the party, even if you're not going to have sex with anyone else, or even if you're not going to have sex, probably just knowing that you're there is quite exciting, isn't it? So I can imagine when you say a lot of people 50% of people don't even get the clothes off, I can imagine they probably find that quite exciting anyway. Maybe they just go
and then
home
they get
and
off.
kill a kitten.
Exactly.
Kill a kitten or two when you get home.
Not literally. No.
Not literally. Disclaimer, no kittens were harmed in the making of this podcast. Now, Radha, do we know where fetishes sort of psychologically come from? I mean, from this conversation, we could literally talk for hours about fetishes because we've not even scratched the surface of things that people are into. There are so many different flavours of sex, aren't there? There are so many different things that people are into. Do we have any idea what we're into sexually and where it comes from psychologically?
I mean, not really. There are lots of different theories out there. And one of the probably the most popular theories is we develop that kind of association when we're very young or in our childhood, that we experience something and it becomes associated with a feeling of pleasure. And then that becomes then a fetish in later life. But to be honest, no one really knows because, as you say, it's very psychologically driven. The brain is so complex, so difficult to understand. And what different people like and for what reasons when is just so complex. I don't think we'd ever really get to the bottom of why people develop things for sure. But definitely people do report that if they trace things back, they can sometimes remember an experience they had, for example, and that becomes very closely associated with the feeling of pleasure. And then it goes into then sexual pleasure when they're older.
And it sounds like, Emma, at your parties, these people are coming along. It sounds like there's maybe some really supportive partners there. Like you say, sometimes the girl will be more into it than the man is, and he'll sit at the bar and have a drink. So it's obviously a very good, healthy relationship where you support each other sexually. What about, Radha, if you want to do something, particularly in the bedroom, and your partner's not into it, or vice versa? If you're really into something and your partner doesn't want to do it, and you feel like that's affecting your sex life, how can we sort of deal with our fetishes? Can they be contained? Is there a healthy way of exercising them that doesn't affect other people?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all like with anything in any relationship, whatever you're talking about, whether it's what you're going to have for dinner or a fetish, I think it's all about communication, isn't it? So you've got to, if there's something that you actually enjoy and that you want to do with your partner, then it's good to talk about and it's good to tell them that. And obviously see how they respond. It's a two-way process. So it's about kind of talking to that person about what you like and seeing what their thoughts are about it and how far they want to go along with it. But it's like anything. If they find it distressing or they don't like it or they're uncomfortable or they don't want to do it, then obviously that's something you have to respect. And it's then about sort of working out, well, is that kind of going to be something you can work through together or not? It's like anything in a relationship, you have to talk about it. And some people get really into fetishes with their partners and they can, go along with them. They really enjoy it and it becomes part of their relationship. Other times people find it quite difficult. And sometimes I've seen some couples coming in asking for psychosexual counselling, for example, because they found that there are certain obstacles in their relationship they can't get over, and they want that kind of counselling or that kind of work to be done as a team and as a couple to work through it. So it's really variable on the couple and what it is.
I wonder if it can be a real deal breaker in some situations. To be honest, sex is a really massive part of your relationship and your general life, isn't it? And I wonder if in some situations that can be a bit of a deal breaker if you two just aren't compatible. Is there such a thing as compatibility in the bedroom? And a lot of people believe that there is, don't they?
Well,
you're doing hand
you
gestures
go through phases, don't you?
Yeah.
It kind of, as I said earlier, so you change all the time. And also as a woman, we're really complex creatures that properly, and I know, post, there's but once you've had a baby, it's actually 2 years before your hormones are out. All those maternal hormones and pregnancy hormones are out of your system because we're meant to, in the animal kingdom, sort of feed them till they're 2 and stop, lions and tigers eating your offspring. So, in the jungle. So it kind of, and that's, so, the priority within you hormonally on that level, you're not really a sexual being. So you kind of, and then you might suddenly get your confidence and then you just want to attack your partner all the time and jump him. It kind of, I just think, it's, as we were saying earlier about the brain, it's sort of, there's so many factors that will completely turn your sexual preferences and what you want. And I know couples that sort of, 5 years ago were saying, oh, no, Killing Kittens is not for them. And they're, they were quite anti it. And then suddenly now, they're coming and loving it and they're doing it together. And it's because it's just sort of the dynamic change.
It's a dynamic process though, isn't it? Yeah, like you say, through your life, things change, your attitudes to things change. But I also love how we're talking about the whole cat family, kittens all the way through to
when it's
lions, tigers.
It's a feline
It's
thing.
a different kind of Attenborough documentary, isn't it, to be honest?
I'm now talking about eating offspring.
Killing tigers is going to be the next business venture.
I've killed kittens, I've tortured them, and now I'm eating my offspring.
I just hope nobody tunes in halfway through and doesn't understand what we're talking about.
I mean, I think with fetishes, if it's not causing anyone any harm or any distress, then there's no problem with it. It's just something that you enjoy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But obviously, if it becomes to the point where it's affecting what you're doing or affecting your relationship, or you can't have a relationship unless there is that particular fetish involved, or it's very strong, then clearly it's causing you distress, it's causing you issues. And so, from having a healthy sex life, so that's, I suppose, the time when actually it might be useful to go and talk to someone and see where that's coming from and see if you can get some help with it. But generally, I think that, if it's causing no one any harm, you're enjoying it, then
that's what I always say. It's sort of, as long as, no one's getting hurt, no one's pushing anyone into it, as long as it's not affecting anyone else, then who am I or you or anyone to judge what people do? So, it's like that with religion. It's, let everyone believe what they want to believe. It's when they start pushing it.
Yeah.
And telling you you're wrong and it's disgusting and that's how, it's sort of then it becomes an issue. But if you just sort of leave people to get on with it.
Do what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever had any sort of hairy moments, so to speak, at the events where,
Hairy.
have there ever been any sort of arguments between couples or, any sort of jealousy going on? Or is there anyone who's sort of turned up basically and then it hasn't been a good idea for their relationship?
Do you know what we've had? The only trouble we've had has actually been the quite alpha male types who often have been the ones that have kind of instigated or like the idea of it. And then they'll have some drinks and then they realise it's not about them and they're completely, they're used to being completely in control.
Yeah.
And everything's on their terms and what they say. And suddenly they're in an environment that has nothing to do with them. They're whatever. And they're kind of irrelevant. And it's not about them. And suddenly, their missus is getting attention and she's feeling more confident and they just can't, they feel threatened.
Yeah.
And then they'll have more drinks and then you'll start. So we've seen guys be arseholes a bit on that front and, the girl will be talking to someone and they, the guys will create a scene about. So to be honest, it's been, if we have seen any issues, it's very much been the male, or on the male side, rather than the women kind of kicking off because the husbands talking, because we have rules at the event, at the for Killing Kittens events, that guys can't speak to girls they don't know. They have to wait for the women to speak to them first.
To approach them, right, yeah.
So the guys, they can't go up and start chatting up women. They have to wait for them to come and do the chatting. And it's the same on our website. Guys can't just randomly message girls they don't know. They have to wait for the girls to do it.
What a breath of fresh air. I mean, I think I might just come along just to be in a bar where men don't come up to you without you going up to them first.
That's what a lot of my girlfriends say. Yeah.
It's like you say, there's a table there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Somewhere to sit.
Shall we start going, Radha? If nothing else, literally
Well, I did wonder at the beginning of the podcast when you
men.
went, so if we were to come to one of these, I was like, yes, Katie.
I like the idea of the fact that you'll just go to that place and you won't get harassed by men all night. That's great. There's rules for this sort of thing. I love it. Brilliant. Well, it's absolutely fascinating. Before we go, do you vet the people who come along to the parties in any way? Do they have to be really sexy? Do they have to be into a certain thing? Or other than the main rules?
We say that, sexy is an attitude, not a shape.
Yeah.
And it's not... often I'll get, slammed and, you only let really beautiful people in and you're fattest. And there's nothing like that. It's, when you apply and you register on the site to be a member, all we ask is we're kind of proving that you're a real person. Mm-hmm. But we do have sort of age restrictions. So some of the parties are up until 45. We just want to see photos that, you look like a nice person. You don't know it's a really nice person. You don't know if they are or they're not. But just we're not going to accept photos of someone that's completely, wrapped up in rope with a gimp, mask on and a ball in his mouth and and a whip in a hand.
I mean, it wouldn't pass as a passport photo, that would it?
Exactly.
I don't think so. No. I mean, I wasn't even allowed to smile in my passport photo the other week when I had to renew it. So.
You can't wear your glasses. You probably can't wear your gimp mask either.
No, but we get a lot of headshots that aren't headshots.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A different kind
So
of headshot.
yeah, the girls that do the vetting, they don't start vetting till after 11 in the morning once they've had their coffee because they're just
while they're eating their breakfast.
A correct headshot. No,
some caffeine, some sugar, and then you can deal
basically
with
their
it.
job to receive dick pics for a living.
Yeah.
Lucky them. The masks thing does feel very 50 Shades of Grey, although you were doing it presumably before 50 Shades
We
of
were
Grey.
way before 50 Shades.
There's even a little twinkle in the writer's eye.
But no, the master lot that do the masters, is that, if you put a mask on, then you can be whoever and you're kind of hiding behind something. So a lot of people feel like if they put a mask on, even though it's blatantly obvious who they are, just the eye mask, it's as if they've got that kind of barrier between
psychology.
Yeah,
again,
psychology.
Isn't it, really?
And when they're most people take them off, but when they're comfortable to take them off. So to start with, it's as if everyone's sort of got this layer.
Do you ever get any sort of criticism from people? Do you ever get people who just don't really get it and think that you're doing something that's a bit seedy?
30 years of abuse. It's got a lot less now, to be honest. It's when I started was, I remember doing one radio. It was BBC actually, but Belfast, and being told that I was going to hell and the devil, and they could feel the devil with me.
Wow, that doesn't sound very BBC allowed.
No, well, it was BBC radio. It was Belfast, so it was some really strong Belfast Irish.
Wow.
So it's just, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and a lot of people don't get it. That's the thing. It's sort of, it's because there's sex that goes on. It's instantly put in that CD. It's wrong.
Of course.
It's slut. It's, kind of pot. And I just sort of walk away. I can't be arsed to stand there and sort of trying to justify it and defend myself. It's like, I've known what's going on in my head.
Yeah.
It's a good place, my head.
It sounds with its unlimited porn supply.
Exactly. So I've known what it stands for, and I know what, and I wanted it to grow and become something bigger, and the whole kittens world thing, and that's what it stands for now. So I kind of it's just sort of white noise.
Yeah.
Well, and also when you get good feedback, or you get that kind of feedback you were telling us about earlier, that must really help strengthen your faith in
massively. When you get an email or a review or
that it's helped someone.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of marriage emails as well from people who have found each other.
I was
through
actually
our
going to
site
ask.
as well.
Wow. Okay, I was
There
going
have
to
been
ask
Killing Kittens
from
marriages.
There's been marriages
from the website rather than events. Or...
Yeah, and I've got 3 girlfriends actually who went on the site at the beginning of last year who've never come to events. I said, just go on there. People don't realise there's this whole online world. And all 3 of them met guys on the site, and they're still with them, and they're great guys who have never been to parties either. They just thought, well, it's open-minded. They like the idea of it, and the whole women's, being in control online as well. It's just sort of, and that we vet everyone and make sure they're real people.
So were you invited to the wedding? Did you buy a hat, a new hat?
I was invited to one wedding.
Was it kitten themed, your hat?
I should have gone in like Dr. Evil.
That's amazing. Well, I suppose there's something about perhaps the type of man that chooses to approach a dating site where women are in control. That makes me have high hopes for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So perhaps that's why they've eventually
Very
managed to
respectful.
find someone. Yeah. They've managed to find the type
And I
of
always
guy
say
that they're after.
to guys, if you've got a secure, happy female, then your life is going to be awesome.
Happy
so
wife,
why
happy
would
life.
you want to feel threatened by them? Exactly.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, well, I think it's fascinating. And it's not going to be
Thanks.
everyone's cup of tea, of course, but it's not like you're shoving it down everyone's
Exactly.
throats. Again, I need to choose my phrasing for these podcasts, don't I? But it's been so interesting hearing more about it.
Thanks.
So thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to the podcast today. If you've enjoyed this, then do subscribe, because we would love that, because then we can do more podcasts talking about these sorts of things. If there's a particular topic you want us to discuss, you can email us lifehacks@bbc.co.uk, or you can ask us for any advice. Dr Radha is of course a doctor, hence the doctor bit. So you can ask her any questions you've got. Maybe you want to talk to us some more about fetishes. Hey, let us know what you want us to discuss and we will listen to your opinions. Thank you very much to Emma, and we will see you next Tuesday. Oh, we're a bit out of sync then, Radha. Should we do one more?
Yeah.
We will
See you next Tuesday.
We're getting a bit out of sync with those, aren't we?
Let's do it again.
See you.
Oh, you have to give me a countdown.
We do keep this in, producer Darren. Do keep this in for the lols. Okay. We will see you next Tuesday. Smashed it.